the song of the opening, not what they play at the studio, what I usually say is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Jury's still out. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's Juneteenth weekend. People are getting their floats back out. And I think it is going to be a wonderful, wonderful weekend. So plan on being at the parade or walking around Sunday. I usually do them both. My tradition has been get to the parade. I usually get there like 5 minutes before it's time to kick off. I don't think people know I'm not a people person. If that ever gets out, that I'm like this hermit. So all of those people, and they always so kind to me, by the way, just kind, really kind. And it's good to be with people who are kind. So that's happening this weekend. There's a lot to talk about today. I'm going at the top of the show. I'm going to be talking to he's here from the Board of Elections. He's wearing the Board of Elections hat, top of the show. But I just want to get you, oh, shucks. I didn't even, let me share mine. Got Duncan Kirkwood hanging around. I was just telling Duncan I recommended him to take over my favorite graduation of the year is the adult GED graduation. Big ups to all the hundreds of graduates this year. I mean, hundreds. And for Buff State to be packed, I mean, packed to the gills.
It sure was.
People all over. People coming in late. People coming in early. It was great. But this is, there's my phone. This is I said this, I'm trying to peel back some of these layers. And I told him, I said, I got a great speaker for you, Duncan Kirkwood. Duncan Kirkwood. If he gets called to preaching, we'll be putting him up for preaching too. Hey, you want a revivalist? You know I don't do all that running around the country. Today we're going to be talking about some things that have just come up. Ohio teachers legally permitted to bring firearms in school with only 24 hours of training.
Wow.
We're going to talk about that, especially in light of another shooting, folks, in an Alabama church. Now, this is the second church in a few weeks. Alabama church shooting kills 2, wounds 1. Suspect detained. Now, we're going to talk about that. Teachers with guns, churches, guns. Do you think teachers should be allowed to carry guns in the school? I'm going to give you my opinion on it, especially in light of. And also, we're going to try to squeeze in this. Juneteenth products being sold now. I think it was Walmart that did the ice cream. We're going to talk about that. And what companies can do to celebrate. But now, folks, it's a holiday now. Mm-hmm. It is a recognized holiday. People make money off of recognized holidays. So we're going to talk about that. And that's on all of them. All of them. Yeah. We're going to talk about that. Even the days that are not recognized. Was St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yep.
People making money on St. Patrick's Day all day long. Oh, big, big, big money. We're going to talk about it today on the show. But to start out the show, we have from the Board of Elections, Jeremy Zeldner. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Do I call you Mr. Chairman now?
Commissioner.
Commissioner. I want to make sure it's right because he's not here. I want to tell you this right from the top. He's not here to talk about politics today. We're here to talk about voting. Commissioner, talk to us about early voting and what that means.
Well, it's, as you know, the most important thing we can do. So we, a few years back, started early voting in New York State, and huge change, to have 20 election days in a year other than 2.
I used to stress getting through one day. Now it's 20.
Yeah, well, this year it's going to be 30 because we have 2 primaries. We have a primary in August 28th, or 23rd is the primary, Tuesday, August 23rd. So we have 30 election days this year.
Wow.
So people really have a lot of time to make their choice.
But is it almost, it's very confusing for some people to have those 2. Why do we have the 2?
Well, we have right now we have a primary coming up for Democrats on Tuesday, June 28th. It's a Democratic primary. There's also a governor's primary on the Republican line. We have to figure out who our candidate is for the parties so that they can go against the other party in the fall. So we'll be choosing the Democratic nominee here locally for county clerk. We'll be choosing the Democratic nominee for governor of the state of New York and lieutenant governor for the state of New York as well on that day.
Now, and probably I asked the question wrong because all these dates have changed now. Can you explain to the audience why the dates changed?
Well, the primary was moved from September to June a few years back. So that's what's really tripping people up the most. We used to have our primary battles in September and we'd be done,
Right.
and then we'd get on to the fall. Now we have a June primary, which most people don't really know about anymore. And that's why I'm here to let people know that early voting starts tomorrow morning for that June primary. You can get out and vote at any one of our sites. So that's when our primaries will be. So people need to make a mental note of that now. Forget about the Septembers. Now we have a June primary.
And that's forever that we know of,
Right.
unless it changed again.
Right.
But for right now, we have to get our mind. And I think the most difficult part about this is it was already hard to get people out. And now, do you expect more people now that we have a longer time to vote?
Well, I'm hoping they do. The majority leader, the governor, and our senators put in place a strong early voting plan a few years back. Our county did it right off the bat. Right off the bat, we have one early voting site in each of the city council districts. We've got 38 across the county, and you can use any one of them. If you don't live in the city but you work in the city, you can go to the Board of Elections or any one of our sites and vote there. If you work in the suburbs but you live in the city, you can go out to the town of Hamburg and vote.
I did not know that.
We do ballot on demand anywhere in the county.
Okay.
So if you happen to be headed out to a place to go hang out at the beach out in Hamburg, you can stop at their location out there and vote. It's
No
really
excuses.
inclusive. There really isn't.
So you show up and they can print up your ballot because they look it up in the computer and they print it up and you go in the little desk or wherever and vote.
We have electronic poll books that we track everything in real time, so you can't go vote in Hamburg, you can't come back vote in the city, you can't vote on election day. A couple of changes. We now have early voting on the weekends 9 to 5. So it's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can vote at any one of the places. The one big change this year is you can no longer request an absentee and vote at the polls. In the past, we've allowed people to request the absentee, and if they vote at the polls, we pull the absentee. But now we're counting that we're getting the absentees in early and processing them, so we can't allow you to vote at the polls. You don't have that option
So
anymore.
even if you do not fill out your absentee, once you ask for it, you got to vote by that absentee.
Yes, you'll be able to vote affidavit at the poll, but it's not going to count because you've requested that. Now, if you've requested it and haven't received it, give us a call at the board, 858-8891. We'll send you another one. But if you feel up to voting and you're not physically,
Right.
Have an impediment there, get out, vote early. It's easy. It's not that busy. You're going to get in and out. We have 11 sites in the city of Buffalo.
Let's talk.
alone.
You can announce them.
We've got. I think Mark's got the graphic, but you can vote at the Board of Elections on Eagle. You can vote at the TR inaugural site on Delaware. We have the North Buffalo Community Center. We have the St. Columba Bridget over on Hickory. We've got the Matt Urban Center on Broadway. We've got the Hennepin Center on Ludington. We've got the Delavan Grider Center right down the street. We've got Grant Street, the Salvation Army, the Northwest Buffalo on Lawn, Tosh Collins in South Buffalo, Gloria Parks on Main Street.
Wow.
You could go to any one of those.
Yep. And for those of you obviously who are on social media, it's a huge list, but you could just stop the stream when you look at the playback, or they can go right online.
Yeah, elections.erie.gov is where you can find a ton of information. We're always looking for paid election inspectors. Now that we have 30 days of voting,
right.
They can make a few bucks. They can help our community. It's a civic engagement thing. We're talking to students now because if you're 17 or 18, you can be an election inspector.
If I was retired, man, this would be 30 days of just work. I'd be like, sign me up. So you still need people to apply?
We do. We could train them. They can help us in the August primary. They can work the general election in the fall. We're always looking for help.
Wow, this is huge. I'm telling you. So now we and again we're just talking about the voting process. Is it too late now to get an absentee ballot?
It is, unless you come to the board directly. If you need an absentee ballot, you need to come to us at the board. But you really don't need an absentee. If you can get out of your house, you can go vote early. You can go to any one of these sites and vote early. So
yeah, unless you're out of town and
if you're not coming back to town,
unless you're out of town for like 3 months,
right? But that person has to come in,
right?
So I can't come in and get it for Joe Blow and say, hey, I want just give me an absentee ballot.
That's a lot more complicated process. Yeah. So hopefully you can go vote early.
But you make a good point. If you could come down to the Board of Elections and find a parking spot and park in the parking lot, that the things rarely work. But we got new ones. Anyway, I digress.
Starting tomorrow in the morning, if you come to the board, you can vote right there. You can
get
your ballot and vote. Yes, we're one of the early voting sites.
Got it.
So 9 to 5 weekends, noon to 9 on the weekdays. All week next week, folks can come
Sunday
down.
included?
Sunday included.
That's going to be a challenge at St. Columba. That's where I usually go because it's in the Elegant District and they have church going on. So there are times they stop the line. You got to wait outside. Yeah. And then they stop the line. But you get in there. You get in that little – I told them move it over to the bigger room. But St. Columba Bridges is where I go. But you can go to any place in the county of Erie and vote, folks. No excuse. No. If you're going shopping, find one of those places, look on your phone, go to that website, look it up, and vote. With the first time we had the early voting, did we see more people or less people vote?
There wasn't much of a change. And part of that, I think, is because of the time change, moving it to June. We're still trying to get used to this June primary date. But I think as folks realize you can vote anywhere, that we're going to start to see a lot more turnout. We're seeing what the legislature is doing and the governor of making these reforms. Anytime you remove roadblocks, more people vote. So we're hoping that this is a way to get people to say, geez, I can't get there on election day and I don't want to fill out that absentee form. I'm not going to vote. You got 10 days now. If you can't vote tomorrow morning, you got Sunday. If you can't vote Sunday, you got all week and next weekend. So make a plan.
That's crazy.
Get out and vote. There's no better way to make your voice heard.
Well, I remember in one election, the line over to vote during the prime, just around the corner, and it just made your heart feel great. And I think the last one, I just rode my bike over there, and there was no line. You could go in. But I think what's so important is people take the opportunity to go out and vote. Yeah. Anything else you want to leave us with?
Well, as I said, you can go to any one of the sites. Let your friends and family know about it. As I said, this weekend we have the most inclusive plan in the state of New York, right here in our county. They expanded early voting. We didn't have to expand. We were expanded here. The only thing that changed is 9 to 5. It used to be noon to 6 on the weekends, but if the website again, elections.erie.gov. When it's time to apply for an absentee, you can do it right online. It takes 2 minutes. If you're not feeling well enough to get out of the house, if you're concerned about COVID, which many people still are, they don't have to go out and do anything. We can mail it right to you. So there's really not a lot more excuses left to get out and vote. So please, everybody, take advantage of the early voting. Happy Juneteenth. And it's going to be a great weekend.
I think so. Thank you for being here with us. Our Commissioner Jeremy Zellner. Get out and vote, folks. Thanks, Jermaine. They're saying low volume. Did you see that?
Yes, we fixed that.
Did we fix that? All right. So everybody should be able to hear us. Thank you. And he's got his own cameraman, too. No, you all right. Go ahead. Good to see you, man. All right. So I think that's some real important information that was shared about you can go anywhere. You do not have to go in your district. Any place in the county of Erie. Now, listen, don't go over to Cattaraugus County and talking about you coming to vote. You got in the county. If you live in the county of Erie, it must be in the county of Erie. Let me update you on some things, and we're going to get right to the topic. I did have a meeting this week with the head of the Compassion Fund. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk in the community, several things that it did. A lot of talk in the community about some of the money being released to the families. And I totally agree. Now, I've said this. I said this last week. I said it on live. I'm going to say it on this show. The gentleman who is the head of it, and all due respect, because this is an organization that has literally moved tens of millions of dollars. This is what their organization do. They collect in a tragedy. They work with, what I found out yesterday, a local steering committee, and then they distribute the monies that you can come on. You left something? All right, go ahead. You all right? We all right? We're a laid back show here. Then they work with a local steering committee to get money to wherever. And usually often, I shouldn't say usually, most often it is for people who have survived, so they're alive, right? Mm-hmm. So this one is somewhat different because you're talking about families. However, what I said to him is, we know there's a process. We know that you've said that it'll take until October. And others were on the call, so I don't want to act as if I was there alone. I was actually invited to give my voice. I asked, why can't at least a set aside, you know who the families are. So when I first heard them say, well, we got to figure out who the families are. And then he explained it well. Some families are split. And as far as, where money goes, they have to make sure it goes to the right person. Got it. My question to him is, why can't a small amount or some amount be, $10,000, $20,000 go to these families now, which is not small, but it's significant, right? This is what he told me, and I told him I was going to repeat it. He said it could, but it's up to the local steering committee, because there's a certain amount for survivors of people who have died and a certain amount for those who were injured and lived through it, okay? Now, this is very important. So there is a local steering committee, and he said that we would have to, and I won't read off their names. Y'all can go and look it up online. And so the next move to me, in my head, and I'm looking at these names. Let me see. And I'm not going to say them. You can go look them up for yourself. But I would say I know at least half of the people on this list. At least half of the people. So if the local steering committee, and you can look it up yourself by going, what's the website?
Hold on, I can find it.
It's called the National Compassion Fund, and it's under Buffalo 514 Survivors Fund. So those of you who are concerned, and let me just do a little teaching here, one more time. This is not the fund. The Common Council. This is, I always hear it. Why can't the council get these people money? Why do the black leadership can't get? This is a private company, not for profit. Here is the list of people who sit on there. Darius Pridgen's name is not on there. Byron Brown's name is not on there. Not that I saw.
No, it's not.
Let me back up. All right. So when you say this money, you got to talk to these people. And not that they're against it. I haven't talked to them. So in fairness, I have not talked to them. I am going to author a letter to each one of them with that suggestion to move at least, I don't know the amount, but I think at least 10 to 20,000. Now, what he explained to me, and I got it, these funds and their organization do not pay for funerals. Didn't know that. So at the end of the day, I just want to bring education and for you to know that I inserted myself, first of all, by myself, and then was asked by a group, would I come on a phone call and talk to them about this release of money? And I did, and I got that information. He said it. It's up to the local steering committee. He's not trying to hold it. It wouldn't be all of it, but these families have expenses. People travel, whatever it is, whatever. Everybody's got their different things. But I think that when people gave, they really gave with the hope that there would be some instant relief for these families. And to me, you got to make that happen. Come on in, Duncan. Sent my absentee ballot in. All right. So that's. Did I miss anything there?
No, not at all. But the website is the nationalcompassionfund.org. If you just do a simple Google search of 514 Survivors Fund, it'll pop right up. And on that site is the draft protocol. And that's where the steering committee is listed, but it's also where it gives the preliminary discussion of what the protocol will be for funding and the release of funds, and there is a date for a public town hall listed in that protocol.
So we want to make sure that we are pointing our questions in the right direction to get some movement. I'd love to see them release some money within the next week or two. That's just how it is. What's up, Duncan? How you doing?
I'm doing well.
What do you think about this?
My wife's father, my father-in-law, passed recently, and that was the first passing that was close to me.
Wow.
Like in my whole life, that was that close, where I had to be involved in logistics and and funerals and passing is a whole ordeal. not just the expense of the stuff, but the family coming over. Just everything becomes a thing.
Yes.
And so, yes,
Yes.
just get the family something.
I think you make a very, very good point. And that there's all these other expenses besides funerals. And I think that when people reached into their pocket and they put forth millions of dollars, they expected this is going to happen, and it's going to happen quickly. I respect that they have a process. I got that, and I understand, especially for looking at how else do we distribute money. But I think the majority of people who gave with a mindset of we want to help these families that are grieving. So to me, that's the bedrock of everything. And then from there, you go to the next thing. Absolutely. But if you don't even start there, to me, and I get it, how some of these families are feeling like, we haven't been in the conversation, you have a meeting with us after you've already had the meeting. So you really don't know our needs until just recently. And so I say, Pastor Mark Blue, who has been kind of wearing this, I've shared this with him. I've shared it with everybody who I thought that I knew, and now I see other names on the list, but I'm going to send it to everybody and say this. So you make a good point. Alabama church shooting kills two, wounds one. Now, this was not a predominantly African-American church, and it doesn't matter to me. It's people gathered in Vestavia Hills, Alabama. Police investigating a shooting at an Alabama church that killed two people and wounded another said Friday that the shooter was a 71-year-old man who occasionally attended services.
Wow.
Police Captain Shane Ware, it's kind of truncated, Thursday night at St. Stephen's said something. Took him into custody Thursday night at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in the Birmingham suburb of Vestavia Hills. Ware said prosecutors were preparing warrants to charge him, blah, blah, blah. Ware said the man pulled a gun and opened fire during a potluck dinner. Gee whiz. Attended by other church members. He killed an 84-year-old man and a 75-year-old woman and left another woman wounded before a person in the room restrained the gunman and held him until police arrived. I'm not sure what's going on. The Reverend Rebecca Bridges, the church's associate rector, led an online prayer service with church members who witnessed the shooting, but also for the person who perpetrated the shooting. So what's next? Now, we got firearms being carried or allowed to be carried in Ohio now. Ohio teachers legally permitted to bring firearms in school with only 24 hours of training. Are we getting to the point where when there are masses of people together that we're going to have to check for weapons? Where are we headed? Where are we headed? What do you guys think? I don't want to see a metal detector in church. I don't. It's hard seeing them in school, but you do understand. You got to protect your children. And somebody posted the other day they went to a school, and I'm not going to name it because it's in Ledge. I wasn't there to pick up a friend's child, and nobody asked the person for ID. They didn't have to sign them out. They were buzzed in by allowed in with somebody else who was has the credentials to get in, able to walk through the school, and it's a school in Buffalo. And somebody asked, "What are you here for?" "Oh, I'm here to pick up such and such," and they just went to the classroom and got such and such.
Wow.
So, what do you think of metal detector? Are we at a time where we're gonna have metal detectors at every mass gathering place?
I think so. Not maybe not the detectors, but most of the events I go to, I end up getting wanded, frisked. Your bags get searched. So I think we've already been heading that way. You can't even go to a Bills game without a clear bag, without walking through a metal detector, without being wanded. Honestly, like I said, even some of the events, the smaller events, people are hiring security that is wanding and searching. So I think we've been on this path, and I just think it's just going to perpetually keep getting more enforced and actually worse.
And that's sad, but with the ghost guns, I wonder if metal, because they're not made out of metal, but if they have a bullet in it, then the bullet should I would assume set off a metal detector. But I don't know if the gun itself does necessarily, because ghost guns, folks, are these guns that you make with a printer, with a 3D printer, right? And you get the program, and it literally makes you a gun in pieces, and you put it together. And from what I'm hearing, it takes less than a half an hour to put it together.
Wow.
Less than a half an hour to put together. And they just did a raid. And found ghost guns. So we've got ghost guns throughout Buffalo right now. So you got young people who can get on the internet, get the program if they know where to find it, and get to a 3D printer and literally make a gun. That works. That is not as good as a regular gun because there are a lot of misfires and it's dangerous. But a kid who wants the gun, they're just gonna go out and do the gun online. This is scary. Churches, you think, need metal detectors?
I don't know about I think we're getting to a point where it's one or the other. You're either going to have metal detectors or people winding folks or increased security. So the feeling of safety is going to be eroded either way. Like if you got to walk through a metal detector, have a clear bag, like Mark said, something like that, you're going to feel like on edge.
Yeah.
Or if you walk in and it's 6 security guards with assault rifles standing there doing security, you're going to feel on edge. But I think at least in the near future, we're moving towards that. I don't know about arming teachers. Giving anybody a weapon with less than several weeks of training and saying, all right, go into the world is scary, because it's not just how do you pull the trigger, how do you use the safety. It's controlling your emotions and energy in a situation to know when to pull it out. And in a lot of our school districts, our teachers are afraid of our black kids. So that's why they're calling the police. That's why they're over disciplining them, expelling them, because they're already afraid of black. Instead of treating a black 12-year-old boy like he's just a little boy, they see them as this 17-year-old grown monster that could,
So you think it may turn on the children?
I think that there's the possibility that fear, whereas before the teacher calls the office, she's, oh my gosh, this big black boy, now she goes for her weapon. And so I think that's a possibility, and also just the lack of training is just,
I can see that.
It's just ridiculous.
I can see that, especially if you're talking about a fight breaks out, and now you have a teacher that goes, I can jump in the middle, or I can fire a weapon. Like, I just think that I completely agree. I would rather not arm them or find some other kind of method, but arming a teacher with only 24 hours is ridiculous.
Now,
to me.
I'm going to try to read a little bit of the article, because it doesn't necessarily mean that they have only 24 hours of training. They may have to have a license, which would cause maybe. Let me attempt to read that. I just saw this morning. The rate of students bringing guns to school has sadly become so common that some are even beginning to feel numb to the headlines. However, the flip side, where teachers are the ones packing heat alongside lunch, is the uncharted territory that may soon be the norm in Ohio, thanks to a new law signed by Governor Mike DeWine. Our children, my printer is really leaving out a lot. We have an obligation to do everything we can every day, so try and protect our kids. In a statement from earlier this month, the Republican politician attempted to make an argument for the practicality of this bill by saying, quote, "My office worked with the General Assembly to remove hundreds of hours of curriculum irrelevant to school safety and to ensure," this is just becoming political, "to ensure training requirements were specific to a school environment and contained significant scenario-based training." This is my feeling. I don't want to see teachers carrying guns, but I do believe that the schools should be secure enough with professionals who that's all they do. And but they have to have, because when I was growing up, went to Bennett, we loved our security personnel, Mr. Lee. I still remember his name. I tell the story all the time, how he got me out of trouble that I really should have been in. But he had relationships. So if we were going to fight, you knew Mr. Lee he was smaller than me, but he could snatch you up out of a fight. And when he snatched you up, you got snatched up. Mama ain't come in cussing out Mr. Lee. He broke up the fight. I think we are in a different age. I think we are in a different era. I've told the story before, and I told it to the superintendent the other day online. I mean, not online, when she was in chambers and on the record, how an adult went into the school to threaten my oldest child when he was in elementary school, got into school. Well, and he's only a freshman now. So this was before the pandemic. But how this adult was able to get in the school, walk into the classroom, threaten him, and was able to walk out. Wow. And got away with a slap on the hand. Or, you can't come back in Buffalo Public Schools. No. That ain't how we roll. At the end of the day, I do think that, some people are against guns in school at all. I don't happen to be that one. Because the threat that comes in, if it was your baby in there, you want somebody who can handle that threat, and not like they handled it in Texas.
Absolutely.
But somebody who they're being trained, they're getting training, consistently being trained on how to deal with situations, even if it's fights among our students. Because I've seen some of the fights, and they're not like the fights back in the day. These are brutal, really brutal to kill at times fights. And imagine adults trying to get involved in it. It's dangerous. So I'm not one for guns in the schools for teachers. Unless that teacher is a trained law enforcement person. Because you do have, let's say, and they can carry into a school, like a Cedric Holloway. Because he's a law enforcement officer, he can carry a weapon into the school. But when he retires, he can't. So it would be something like that. You're a trained law enforcement officer. You continue to receive training, but not just Miss Susie, who's teaching home ec.
Or fresh out of college.
Yeah, you packing. But I do believe it's going to start happening all over the country.
Absolutely.
Especially in those southern states. It's going to happen. I imagine it happening in Florida with their governor and how he is. I'm real surprised, though, for Ohio kind of to make that move. So
I'm not.
You're not?
No, Ohio's a very reddish purple state. They just have a Democratic swing every so often, but they are very Republican in that state.
Wow. Well, they're moving. Well, no, he signed it into law. Juneteenth is coming, and big controversy. Walmart, Wally World, came out with some ice cream, right?
Ugh.
Now, at first, I really didn't understand what's the controversy, right? First, I thought, they're you know me, I'm always trying to be the kumbaya person. They're participating in Juneteenth. They're recognizing. So people had a fit. Again, if you could see how my printer prints, I'm going to do the best I can here. The headline from the NPR is companies are selling Juneteenth branded products. Here's why that's a big problem. From store branded Juneteenth ice cream to Juneteenth themed paper plates. I thought that was nice. I did. You got 4th of July plates. Why can't you have a Juneteenth plate? I was going to go out and buy the Juneteenth plate, have dinner on the Juneteenth plate, save it as commemorative of the first Juneteenth paper plate. But people had a fit. And party supplies to even selling a Juneteenth watermelon salad.
Too far. Too soon.
Now, let me tell you this. I love watermelon. I bought one of the sweetest ones the other day from me. But Juneteenth watermelon salad. Juneteenth watermelon salad. Let me keep on reading. And many large companies and brands are facing backlash for their efforts to commemorate the federal holiday signed into law last year. Following its negative reaction on social media, Walmart pulled its special edition flavor of ice cream commemorating Juneteenth from shelves, with many critics calling out the retailer for capitalizing on the holiday for profit. There were several missteps with this. When you collectively look at all these missteps, the branding, the marketing, the visual rhetoric, you understand that there weren't black creatives in the room that had a voice at the table.
That's what I said.
Last month, the giant retailer apologized for selling its Celebration Edition Juneteenth ice cream under its Great Value brand. Juneteenth holiday marks a celebration, we know that part, blah, blah, blah. The Children's Museum of Indianapolis apologized and removed its Juneteenth-themed watermelon salad from its food court menu ahead.
I mean, did it come with a fried chicken and
don't
orange or
know.
grape soda too? Like, what?
So they removed it. As a museum, we apologize and acknowledge the negative impact. Okay, so blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't have had any problem with the watermelon. No, yes, I do. With the ice cream if it had been a black vendor. Like, Walmart does buy things from, like, the little girl from, she's a grown woman now, had the skin product. Reverend Lewis's.
Zandra. Not Zandra.
Yeah, no, that was her name. Yeah. That was her name.
That's the name? Okay.
Yeah. They were buying products from her. If she put out a Juneteenth skin product, no problem. If she had a Juneteenth ice cream that then was benefiting somebody of color, no problem. Now I understand the contrary. You put it under your brand, which means you're going to make the benefits of it. But let's just talk marketing. Let's just talk commercial. This happens for every single holiday. Should it be different for Juneteenth? Your opinions, fellas.
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, it's a bad look for Walmart. They should have did it with black creatives, with black vendors. But literally every person, every business is going to have a Juneteenth flow because that's what businesses do. Black businesses, white businesses, Hispanic businesses, schools. Anybody who is making money is going to use they use Memorial Day.
Absolutely.
They use any holiday, any opportunity to sell stuff.
The King holiday.
Dr. King holiday. I mean, literally anything to sell stuff. So, it could have Walmart, because they're so big, got the most attention for it. But it's 800,000 other businesses you ain't never heard of selling Juneteenth stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I mean, we got a Juneteenth festival. They selling cell phones out there, right? It ain't like it's all black vendors. Everybody is going to be a bunch of politicians from the suburbs. It's going to be, you know what I mean? Like literally everything you could think of is going to be at Juneteenth. And 80% don't have nothing to do with black culture. Mm-hmm. And maybe 50, 60% is black businesses. So it's a holiday. Now, it's kind of like we wanted the federal recognition. We got it. And now everything that comes with it, we're like, we don't want that. Mm-hmm. It should just be us, our insulary thing. And I get how people feel that way because you celebrating Juneteenth without talking about what it's really about and the slavery and the oppression and all of that. So I think that is the missing piece. Like if they had put it out there and say, listen, this happened, it's terrible. Now it's a federal holiday. We got ice cream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that would have been the best, but
Right. I was thinking about when I go to I go to the store down by the Perry Projects. This was the first time I ever seen like potato chips that had like stuff on it about black folks, and I didn't know how I felt about it if it wasn't a black company. But we also don't have I don't know, we don't have the market on blackness. But I didn't like some of the pictures and what it looked like,
Right.
and knowing that children were going to be eating these chips. What was your thought, Mark?
I was just going to say, so for me, I was in the same boat. First of all, I think the ice cream flavor was disgusting. So I don't know who they talked to, because the flavor was red velvet ice cream with cheesecake chunks in it. I don't know who they talked to.
With cheesecake chunks?
Did you have
Yes,
some?
I don't know who they talked
What
to.
would you prefer? Watermelon chunks? I mean,
No, I prefer. Now, if they had a room full of 100 black people and this is the flavor they came up with, all right. But again, it was like a cheesy product design. Like everything you said, I completely agree with. It's not benefiting a black company. It's not all of that. And even pushing it a step further, if you looked at the rest of their merchandise on the website, the Juneteenth T-shirts were all being worn by like a white person. So it wasn't even like
Oh,
you
wow.
took the next step and said, okay, well, we'll do like, because I think there's another major provider who, when they are marketing their African American company products, use African Americans, modeling them and things like that.
Yeah.
So you didn't even take that next step. So I just think it was a bad rollout all the way around.
and I think that obviously they got the message, and I would hope that other retailers get it too, because, you know, when you talk about Juneteenth and you talk about the marketing of, let's say, St. Patrick's Day or any other celebratory day, that's one thing. I think when you take a day that remembers the freedom of people who were enslaved, it's a whole nother thing. You know, Martin Luther King Jr.'s family has been very adamant about going after people who utilize the image in ways, and I don't know how this is played out in the courts. I remember this being years ago, where they were trying to say you can't use our father's image to make money. You know, so I think that it's because it's Juneteenth that it is a celebration, but it's also a hurt. So you still got this hurt that we were enslaved in the first place, and now a multi-billion-dollar company who is going to make the benefits, and not a person of color. And I think the larger you are, unfortunately, the more like you just said, Duncan, the more attention that basically comes to you.
You made money off of us with free labor, and now you're gonna make money off us with ice cream. That's the overall overtone.
Veronica Ivy on Facebook says it's disrespectful when we haven't gotten reparations. They could have put a Juneteenth sticker on black-owned items and made a list. Like that. I like that. Samika Sullivan said, I said the exact same thing. We live in a capitalistic society. So I think she really didn't have a problem with it. And Veronica comes back and says, it's giving cultural appropriation. So I really like that idea of how if a business wants to join in the celebration, promote black business. By the way, it was just Black Restaurant Week in Buffalo.
Yep.
So big ups, big shout out to all of you restaurants, especially if you're playing our show in your restaurant right now. If you're playing our show in the restaurant right now, I'm gonna come to your place twice on Sunday.
Yeah, we're still looking for lunch sponsors.
Yeah, I think that's dead. And so I think that now I understand more. But now I'm going to tell you this: there is no leeway for me with the Children's Museum of Indianapolis.
None.
And the watermelon salad. And it's because of how watermelon has been depicted negatively when we talk about African Americans. And it's just too historical. Who told you? Who in the don't know culture deciding what goes in the snack box told, ooh, I can see him in the meeting now. Ooh, I think it would be so nice to put watermelon salad. I don't think a sister said that. I don't think Aunt Joe said that either. I don't, and neither did Uncle Billy. Karen, you was wrong on that one. But it is going to be a market, folks. Whether we like it or not, there will be a market. So here's my thought: if you don't like others making money on our pain, on our enslavement, make it. Make the money. Go do it. Go figure it out. And so that it is not just, see, because Juneteenth is one period of time. To me, the real honor of our ancestors is when we are making a product, when we are producing, when we're participating in the marketplace, and being able to say, why didn't you put up such and such ice cream, if that's what you're going to do? And is this my phone still giving me feedback, Mark?
No, it's my headphones over here.
Oh, okay. Why isn't, so this is our time. Can you turn it down a little bit? This is our time. We got to do it. Got to do it. What was the last thing? So I wrote we have now a law that is aging that I wrote. Actually started writing it before the massacre. And this was for mobile businesses to be licensed. Because right now, if you're a food truck, you have to be licensed. And that protects the city. It also protects other restaurants. So you can't just go pop up in front of a brick and mortar of somebody who has paid for their building and start selling hot dogs outside of their site because you're mobile, right? You got to be, I think, 50 feet away from the corner of the building, So what I knew when we wrote that was that we got all kinds of businesses coming up now, which I am thrilled about. But they need to be regulated so that if you buy something off of a truck, you can at least track that is wrong. I know I don't know if they still have this. Somebody about to get mad when I mention this. But they used to have a man who rode around, he had a cooler on the back of his pickup truck. He was selling meat off the back of the truck. Now, you want to buy meat off the back of the truck? That's your business. But if you buy meat off the back of the truck or any food product and you get sick, you're going to want to be able to trace down where you got that from. That's the reason, one of the main reasons for the laws. And to make sure that the guy with the meat truck can't pull up in front of Steve's Meats and start selling meat, right? It's crazy. Now, here's the deal. After this passed unanimously, and it'll age now for 2 weeks, so it'll be in committee next week. And so if you want to comment on it, and you can go online and read it, the amended law, and if you want to comment next week, Tuesday, you can in legislative meeting. But what came up during that meeting is the fact that Chase Bank put an ATM on Jefferson in front of the library. And I don't know if the library invited them. I got to find out. Got to do my homework. Put an ATM in front of the library. And I'm still trying to figure out why. A portable one, by the way. I don't know if you saw it. Mm-hmm. They drove it in and plopped it on the sidewalk. And remember, the streets are full now, right? And I don't know where it was being powered from. I don't know if it was powered from in the library. Dang respectful. Tell you why. People out there mourning. Almost everything out there was being given away. Not sure what they needed the ATM for. And if they did need an ATM, or maybe it was because nobody could go into Tops to use the ATM, there are banks. There's a bank right there on Jefferson Avenue. The reason I feel disrespected is because Chase has been noted of the alleged, so I don't get sued, disrespect that it has had for African American borrowers. And if you were that concerned about us being able to get money, why have you never opened up a branch? In the city of Buffalo, period. But you didn't open up one on the east side. Now a tragedy. And I don't know if the ATM in Tops was by Chase.
Well, that's what I originally thought when they came down. It was, and I had to do my research because I thought maybe it was the parents' company for Citizens that was in Tops. So I'm like, okay, maybe they just wanted to provide access for their customers to still get it. In my research, I haven't been able to pin Chase and Citizens together, so I don't know why Chase just thought this was a great idea.
Yeah, it's just as bad as the watermelon salad. Somebody should explain something. I still do not know why they plopped that ATM down there. And anybody who was, I mean, you don't need to, nobody, I don't know of anybody that was selling anything unless it was to benefit a family. So I don't know of throngs of people that come to a site, a memorial site. We happened to be in Orlando after Pulse happened for a church convention. And Monique and I went to Pulse to pay our respects. I didn't see no ATM. And it was just as many people around Pulse. We had to park blocks and blocks away and walk to Pulse. But there was just as many people. I never seen an ATM show up. Felicia Stanley says, I don't either. I was hoping it was a fee-free ATM. I don't know, but even if it was, oh, she's here? Oh, bring her in. I'm sorry, you got bring her in. Dunk, we're going to switch you out real quick. Even if it was a fee-free ATM, shouldn't have been on Jefferson. If you really want to help us, Chase, give us some loans in that community. If you really want to help us, open up a branch. If you really want to help us, use some of your community reinvestment dollars. Oh, it's quiet in here now, church. So I don't care if it's free. Katrina says, Mark, I thought the same thing until right now. See, everybody trying to figure out this ATM and why it's plopped in front of the library that was designed by a black architect. What in the flip is going on? And anybody who's mad about it, let me tell you, you can kiss my foot. Because at the end of the day, there was a tragedy, and I don't think anybody should be able to benefit from that tragedy, including a bank that hasn't been that great to us. Veronica Ivy says it's disrespectful. Oh, she says it's disrespectful when we haven't been given reparations. They could have put a Juneteenth stick. Oh, no. Okay. That's the old one. My phone is not advancing as quickly as, well, maybe because I don't know. I don't know the setting. I've got my final guest here. She's been waiting in the wings. I didn't know she was here. They gave me your flyer, but I didn't know
That's
you were
okay.
You
That's
had to
okay.
go through all of that rant that I have. Melissa Hartman is here. You are running for county clerk. Talk to us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Bishop? Thank you for having me on.
How's the campaign going?
Good. Good.
We understand early. We just had the chairman here.
Yeah.
Well, no. He was here as the commissioner
Right.
today.
Right.
Big difference. He
Right.
didn't deal with politics. You're running. Obviously, early voting is
Tomorrow.
starting in
Yeah.
less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Why should people vote? And by the way, I have to give a disclaimer. This show does not endorse any candidates on this show, nor our sponsors. All right.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. Yes, early voting is tomorrow. I'll give you a little bit of information about myself. I'm the current Edentown supervisor. I'm in my 7th year doing that. Some of the big accomplishments that we had, obviously, is getting our community through COVID, just as you have done in the city of Buffalo. I have a passion for serving, and when this idea was brought to me, I love the idea of being able to serve Erie County as a whole. I think we have a really good plan in place. I think we've got some issues currently in the clerk's office that we can assist with, specifically access right here in the neighborhood that we're sitting in. I've been knocking on doors for months now, mainly in Buffalo, almost solely in Buffalo on the east side. I've met a lot of great people who really just want the same access that everybody has in this county, and they deserve that. So that's one of our big plans.
Well, I saw today you were endorsed by the Buffalo News.
Yes, that was exciting.
And one other thing I saw that I did not know, you're okay, is that as the the supervisor
Yeah.
of Eden, you're also kind of like the police chief and the fire chief.
Yes, yeah. Not the chief.
Okay, what
like
is
a commission? We're commissioners. Yeah. So we oversee the police. I oversee the police department. I'm a fire commissioner. It's kind of a default. My town's fire company runs similar to villages, where we oversee them and they run through the town. Yeah, so I have a lot of responsibility. I oversee all the emergency services. So obviously, going into something like a pandemic was a big concern of mine. I even learned how to drive an ambulance because I wanted to
Wow.
make sure that there was a backup. You know, there was a risk out there, right? That there was a possibility.
You didn't get on the
my
fire
whole-
truck, did you?
I didn't, but I can drive the fire truck if I wanted
you
to.
really?
I can. I don't know how, but I'm allowed to as a fire commissioner. But I don't see that happening.
Please don't drive the fire truck just because you can. In your last minute, what would you do differently that would benefit the people who are utilizing your services under the clerk's office?
Sure. Well, one, I think that the East Side needs a permanent location for the DMV. I've been knocking on a lot of doors, as I said before, and they have, they're just, it's too hard to get down to the downtown location. There's parking issues there. It's not on a major transportation line. And there's such a big population down here that they need to have something permanent. So we would look at doing that. We rolled out our gun violence prevention plan that we actually put together the Thursday prior to the mass shooting. And so that's really a gun safety educational program. We would want to do a gun buyback program safely, of course, and in conjunction with the Erie County Sheriff and the County Executive's Office. We want to make sure that everybody who buys a pistol has a trigger lock. They usually get them with their pistols. I think it's required by the law, but not on private sales. We want to do suicide prevention education. We want to make sure that we have continuing education for gun owners in case any kind of the laws change or new guns come out that they need to have some education on. So those are some of the issues, but I really, really feel strongly about making sure they have access. Internet access is an issue down here, so looking at that process. One of the things, I used to work at the University at Buffalo. I was the assistant director of admissions. I oversaw operations. One thing that I've done even in my town is looked at the processes and are they working for the people who are utilizing them? I don't think it's working for everybody. So I'm excited to get in there and kind of dig in and see what we could do to make that process easier. Internet access might be one of those.
All right, and unfortunately, my time is up. This is Melissa Hartman. She's a candidate for county clerk, and you're asking them for your vote.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right. Hey, listen, I'm going to throw it back over to the station. I'm not going to read off all of the advertising, first of all, because I don't have it. Hobson's, the doctor of dry cleaning, and Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home. I'm throwing it back over to the station. If I got time, you can throw the commercials up. Until next week, power to the people.
To the people.
You got it.